Okay guys, in this video I just want to spend a few minutes just to talk about a couple of lifecycle events that's quite important in React. So when a React component actually first loads, it fires an event called component did load. Now that's the old name for it, but in using React hooks, what we do is we basically have a hook called useEffect, which fires when the component first loads. And this is what it looks like in the code. So effectively the hook is called useEffect. And then we have a little bit of code inside some curly braces, as can be seen here. And then we have a couple of square brackets, and it's very important that we have those square brackets to indicate that we have no dependency. And when we have no dependency, it basically fires when the component first loads. Now here's an example in a very simple React component. And we can see that we have the React useEffect hook. That comes as a hook from React itself. And then where we have the actual curly braces in the middle there, that's where we actually insert our code. And then it's very important that we have the square brackets at the end, as I mentioned before. Okay, so now let's compare it to a second event. And the second event is component did update. And this hook fires every time a component is rendered. And so that is every time a component is re-rendered. So every time you change, for example, a state, or you change anything, or the props change, that will cause the component to re-render itself. And then the render component did event, lifecycle event, will then fire every single time. And you can see the difference between this and the previous lifecycle event, where we don't actually have any brackets at the end, or we do have brackets, but we must have a dependency. And a dependency is anything within our code that will cause the useEffect to run. So here's an example here where we don't have any square brackets, and you can see we just simply insert any code in between the curly brace there. Let's do another example where we have a dependency, and that is optional, or the square brackets are optional rather, which means although I've put something and it's underlined there, that will mean that every time a state variable, for example, called something, or maybe it's a function or anything like that, will change, it will cause the React useEffect to actually run. Okay, so that might all sound very complicated and stuff like that, but don't worry too much about it. It's a lot harder to actually understand by explanation than it actually is to see in the code. So let's start now using these useEffects in the next few videos or so. See you there.